There's something off about working the night shifts at Walmart. In the darkness, when most people are safely at home, it's just me, alone among the empty shelves. You think you've grown used to the long, uneventful nights, but sometimes the worst doesn't come from strange customers or scattered items. It comes from the shadowy figures, the strange noises you can't explain, and the feeling that someone is always watching you from a distance. When night falls, Walmart becomes more than just a retail store. It's a different world where the unusual quietly happens, and if you're not careful, you might just become the target of things you could never have imagined. I've been working night shifts at Walmart for about 6 months now, and for the most part, it's been pretty chill. The usual, stocking shelves, handling the occasional late-night customer, and drinking way too much energy drink to stay awake. But over the last couple of weeks, something weird has been happening. There's this guy who keeps coming into the store during my shifts, and at first, I thought he was just one of those weird regulars. But he's starting to freak me out, and I think he's targeting me. The first time I noticed him was 2 weeks ago. It was around 1:30 a.m., and I was stocking shelves in the toiletries aisle. He just kind of appeared at the end of the aisle. He wasn't carrying anything, wasn't looking at any products, just standing there, watching me. He didn't say anything, didn't even pretend to shop. After about 30 seconds, I gave him an awkward nod and said, "Can I help you with something?" He just smiled, a weird, too wide smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Nope, just browsing," he said. Then he turned around and wandered off into the store. It was creepy, but I didn't think much of it at the time. Weird people show up all the time on night shifts, right? But then, he kept coming back. Over the next few nights, he'd show up at the same time, always around 1 or 2 a.m. He never bought anything. He'd just walk around, stopping to stare at me whenever he thought I wasn't paying attention. Sometimes he'd hide at the end of an aisle, just peeking around the corner like some kind of predator. It started messing with my head. One time, I pretended to focus on my work and watched him out of the corner of my eye. He stood completely still for almost 5 minutes, just watching me from behind a shelf of shampoo bottles. I tried to confront him again, but the moment I moved, he slipped away down another aisle. The worst part? None of this shows up on the cameras. I checked the footage after my shift, hoping to catch him lurking, but somehow, he always manages to avoid being seen clearly. It's like he knows exactly where the cameras are. A few nights ago, things escalated. It was around 2:15 a.m., and the store was dead quiet. I was restocking chips in the snack aisle when I heard something scrape against the floor. It sounded like a cart being pushed slowly, deliberately. I peeked around the corner, and there he was, the same guy. This time, though, he was pushing an empty shopping cart, slowly rolling it toward the back of the store where no customers ever go. Something about it felt wrong, like he wasn't just wandering anymore. He had a purpose. I stayed hidden, trying to see what he was up to. He kept walking deeper into the store, stopping every now and then to glance over his shoulder, like he was checking if I was following. Then, out of nowhere, he stopped, looked directly at me, even though I was hiding, and grinned that same unsettling grin. "You coming?" he asked softly. I didn't respond. I just turned around and walked straight back to the front of the store, pretending I didn't hear him. After that, things got worse. Last night, he showed up earlier than usual, just after midnight. This time, though, he wasn't alone. He brought another guy with him, someone I hadn't seen before. They didn't browse or wander like before. They stood at the entrance, whispering to each other, glancing over at me from time to time. At one point, I saw them laughing quietly, like they were sharing some inside joke I didn't want to know. I reported it to my manager, but he just shrugged it off. "It's probably just some guys killing time. If they're not stealing or causing trouble, there's nothing we can do," he said. But I know something's not right. They weren't just bored. They were waiting for something. The most terrifying moment came at the end of my shift, around 5:45 a.m. I was getting ready to lock up the store when I saw the first guy again, standing right outside the glass doors, staring in at me. His hands were empty. No bag, no cart, no nothing. But the look on his face, it wasn't playful anymore. He pressed his hand against the glass and mouthed something at me. I couldn't make it out at first, so I stepped closer. And then I realized what he was saying. "See you soon." I locked the doors as fast as I could and bolted out of the store. I didn't even bother waiting for the morning shift to arrive. I just needed to get out of there. Now, I'm sitting at home, trying to figure out what the hell I should do. What do these guys want? They haven't stolen anything, and they haven't threatened me outright. But something's off. I can feel it. I'm starting to think maybe they're waiting for the right moment to do something. Maybe next time, they won't just stand around and watch. And the worst part, I still have to go back tonight. Has anyone else had something like this happen during a night shift? What do you even do in a situation like this? I've reported it, but no one seems to care. It's just me in that store at night, and I'm starting to feel like it's only a matter of time before something bad happens. If anyone has advice, please let me know. Update, 2:37 a.m. I just started my shift, and the cameras aren't working. My manager says it's a system glitch, but I can't help but think it's connected somehow. And guess what? He just walked in again. This time he's not smiling. I had been working at Walmart for a year, and most of that time, I worked the night shift. The nights at Walmart were usually quiet, with only a few customers popping in and a couple of coworkers around. The sounds of shopping carts, the flickering neon lights, and the cold atmosphere created a monotonous vibe, but I felt comfortable in that routine. However, one night in October, everything changed. It was a rainy night, and the dark sky made everything seem even more frightening. I started my shift at 10 p.m., alone in the store, preparing for the next day. Everything was going normally until around 11 p.m. I was restocking items in the frozen food section when I suddenly heard the door open. A man walked in, wearing a long black coat and a hood that obscured his face. I felt a chill run down my spine. It had been a while since I had seen anyone enter the store at this hour. He wandered around, showing no intention of shopping. I tried to ignore him and continued my work, but he kept stopping, watching me. I could feel his gaze, as if he was scrutinizing my every move. "Do you know what you're doing?" he asked, his voice low and menacing. I swallowed hard, trying to maintain my composure. "I'm just doing my job. Do you need anything?" He just sneered, and I could sense the coldness in that laugh. "You don't know where you are, do you? Many bad things have happened here. Things you can't even imagine." I felt my body stiffen. "Can you leave, please? I don't want any trouble," I said, my voice trembling slightly. He stepped closer. "You can't run away. I've been watching you. I know everything about you." I decided to call the manager, but when I turned to grab the phone, he was right behind me, so close I could feel his icy breath. "Don't do that," he whispered. "It won't help you." Sweat started pouring down my forehead. I had seen enough horror movies to know that bad things often happen when you're alone, especially in a dark place like this. Suddenly, the lights flickered and then went out completely, plunging the space into darkness. My heart raced, and I knew I had to get out of there. What do you want?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't answer. I turned and ran toward the exit, but he blocked my path. "You can't escape," he said. "I've waited for this moment for a long time." I looked around, searching for any help. Suddenly, I heard footsteps in the beam of flashlights. A group of security guards entered, their lights illuminating the dark corners. He immediately stepped back, jumping behind a shelf, disappearing into the shadows. "Are you okay?" one of the guards asked, his expression filled with concern. I took a deep breath, trying to regain my composure. I don't know who he is. He said weird and threatening things to me. They immediately checked the store, but found no trace of the man. After ensuring everything was safe, I tried to recount what had happened. He just stood there staring at me. I felt like he knew everything about me. The guard nodded, but his eyes showed no comfort. Strange things happen here at night. You shouldn't be alone anymore. Let us check in more frequently. I felt a chill run down my spine. Even with the guard's presence, I couldn't shake the image of that man from my mind. I continued my work, but my heart was heavy. The image of him standing there, that cold smile, haunted me. Time passed, and that night became one of the scariest memories of my life. I started noticing strange things around me. Some nights, I would hear strange noises coming from the aisles, as if someone was moving in the dark. I had seen shadowy figures glide by, but when I turned, no one was there. A week later, I came in for another night shift. The atmosphere in the store felt heavier, and the flickering lights made me uneasy. While I was organizing the frozen food section, I felt someone watching me again. Turning around, I saw the same man standing at the end of the aisle, wearing the same outfit I had seen that night. My heart raced, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I quickly moved to another area, but I couldn't escape the feeling that he was tracking me. I called the manager, but no one answered. Suddenly, the front door swung open, and the light from outside flooded in, illuminating part of the store. I dashed toward it, wanting nothing more than to escape, but when I turned around, the man had vanished. "Do you need help?" A security guard walked in, concern written all over his face. "I can't stay here any longer," I said, my voice wavering. "There's a man. He's watching me." The guard nodded. "We'll check this area. Just wait here." As they went to investigate, I stood by the register, trying to calm myself. Time dragged on, and the weight of fear pressed down on me. Suddenly, I heard whispering, a voice I recognized as that man's. "You can't escape," his voice echoed in my head. I turned around but only saw empty shelves. A wave of panic washed over me, and I bolted outside, not looking back. When I stepped out, the bright lights and fresh air made me feel relieved. But even after escaping, I knew that nightmare wasn't over. Though I had left Walmart, the image of that man still haunted me. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, I could still hear his voice whispering in the wind, and I knew that darkness would never truly leave. From that day on, I never worked the night shift again. Some things are scarier than we can imagine, and sometimes the truth hidden in the dark can turn into a real nightmare. I've been working night shifts at Walmart for a few months now, and from the very beginning, something felt off about this place. Not anything obvious, but small things that make you uneasy. Lights flickering for no reason, strange static noises over the PA system, and the occasional feeling that someone's standing right behind me. At first I thought I was just overthinking it, but now I'm sure of it. Someone is following me and messing with me. They're not doing anything obvious, just small things to get under my skin, and it's driving me insane. It started small. I left a box of products in the grocery aisle to grab the radio, and when I came back barely a minute later, the box was flipped upside down. I was sure I'd left it sitting right side up, and there was no one nearby to move it. I figured I was just being careless, but stuff like that kept happening every single night. Bags of chips I'd just organized would suddenly be scattered across the shelf again, like someone had deliberately pulled them out and tossed them back randomly. Shopping carts I parked neatly would show up in weird places, like right in front of the checkout lane, blocking my path. I asked my coworkers, but none of them admitted to it. The more shifts I worked, the more frustrated I got. It felt like someone was watching me. Someone who knew exactly where I was at all times and moved things just to mess with me. Last week, things got weirder. I was stocking the freezers when I heard the entry sensor beep. You know, the ding when someone walks in. I went to check the front door, but no one was there. I thought it might be a glitch, but it kept happening throughout the night. Every time the sensor beeped, I'd find an empty shopping cart sitting in the middle of the entrance, even though I'd already brought in all the carts earlier. That's when it hit me. Someone knew exactly when I wasn't paying attention. It was like they were timing everything perfectly, just to make sure I'd noticed something was off. Then last night happened. I was working alone because Kevin, my usual partner, called off. Around 2 a.m., I was checking the home goods aisle when I returned to my register and found the scanner on. Its screen was glowing, and a message blinked across it. Please scan the next item. I swear no one had touched that scanner. I'd only stepped away for a couple of minutes. To be sure, I went to the security office to check the camera footage. And you know what? There was nothing. In the footage, there was no one walking through the register, not even me. Like the cameras had skipped a few minutes. My skin crawled. That's when I realized someone's in this store, and they know exactly how to stay out of sight. From that moment on, I've been on edge. I tried to figure out who it might be. Maybe someone hiding out after hours, or a coworker playing some elaborate prank. But no one ever got caught, and everyone acted like nothing was wrong. Even my manager just shrugged and said, "Maybe you're not getting enough sleep, kid." But I know this isn't in my head. Every night something moves. I hear things shift when I'm not looking. And sometimes I even hear soft footsteps behind me. But every time I turn around, there's no one there. It's like whoever's doing this knows exactly how to stay one step ahead. Tonight's shift has been the worst so far. It's 2:48 a.m. and I'm writing this from my register. I figured maybe sharing this story would help me calm down, or at least keep me awake. The store is dead quiet, except for the hum of the ceiling fans and the occasional click from the coolers. As I'm typing this, I just heard something from the men's clothing section. The soft clink-clink of hangers shifting on their own. There's no reason for that to happen, especially not this late. I don't want to investigate, but I know I have to. Just as I build up the courage to go check it out, the scanner at my register beeps. I glance at the screen. The message this time: one item left to scan. I want to leave right now, but it's only 3 a.m., and I can't abandon my shift without getting fired. Still, I've got this awful feeling that tonight isn't going to end like the others. Has anyone else worked night shifts and dealt with weird stuff like this? Please tell me I'm not the only one. And if anyone has any advice, I need to know what I'm dealing with. Update, 3:33 a.m. I just saw a shadow pass by one of the security cameras, but when I replayed the footage, nothing showed up. Thank you all for listening to my stories. If you enjoyed them, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos.